Hello, welcome to our next installment of In Conversation With. I'm Anna Chantabong Sang, the Assistant Executive Director of the National Hemp Association, and I have Cree Crawford of ChemID. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me today. This is great.
Um, so can you tell me a little bit about you and ChemID?
Sure. So ChemID is a company I co-founded with my business partner, Alex Andrawis, wow, 7 years ago now. And our hypothesis on starting the company was that there was a better way to capture crop data information. And we started with the cannabis side of the business, the medicinal marijuana side of the business. And we put together a software platform that was able to capture all the different various elements of cannabis flower testing. And then, of course, the hemp bill passed, and we started doing this specifically for hemp as well. And what we were able to do is streamline and track and trace testing for hemp growers that were growing for flower. So it's been really exciting working with a ton of great companies. We started a partnership with Agilent Technologies because they produce a lot of analytical equipment. We've been working with them for a number of years. And then from the blockchain side of it, where we preserve the data and make it available to the ecosystem protected, we started working with a partnership with a group called SICPA. And SICPA is a security group out of Switzerland. I think they're over 100 plus years old. And they, one of the things they do is they provide all the specialty ink for all the world's banknotes.
Okay.
So there's a real interesting security group. And they also have a special digital security division who we work with. And so we're able to work with labs. We work at a lab level. So what happens is when a product comes in, as we know, there's COAs that are produced, and it's not just potency and terpenes. When we're talking about the medicinal side of the plant, it's also pesticides and heavy metals, and all of that data the lab collects, and it's done at there's something called the LIMS, which is a lab information management system, and it sits there and it works with Metric and all these people. But what we've done is aggregated that data, and we pull it in and harmonize that data so anybody within the ecosystem has access to it. So we're able to now allow regulators to pipe in to the data that the lab provides, and they can actually even audit the labs. So it's really important because during this time, and we were just talking about this prior to the call, there's a lot of laboratory fraud going on, and it's beyond misfeasance. And I didn't know there's a lot of malfeasance going on out there, and our software is the only software in market right now that allows the compliance people to go in and do random audits at the labs, taking all the raw data that's created from collecting data and then comparing it to the COA, and they can go, oh, this is a little off, and they can red flag it, and they can pull stuff off of shelves. They can even actually go off, and some of the compliance people can pull stuff off shelves, test it at a third party, and then also compare that to what the lab said. So that's where we started. And then now, because hemp, and we're all for this as well, the farmers of industrial hemp that aren't growing for cannabinoids have been also forced to do all this chemical testing when a lot of the genetics are very stabilized now. And it's putting an undue pressure and stress on the farmers to have to do all this testing, per acre, have to do tons of testing. And even though we're in that space, it's just not fair. It's not fair to the farmers to burden them. And so one of the things it's not a pivot, but it's another thing we're looking at is what's going to be the next important element of testing for hemp or testing hemp. And that's going to be fiber quality and grain and oil quality testing. So we've taken the same platform that aggregates data, and now we can pull it in from any type of machine. And we've been talking to some really interesting people that have hardware and software that is actually able to scan fibers. And so as the industry matures and people start figuring out, okay, what is a grade A fiber for textiles? What's a grade A powder, product for, phytoplastics? What are what are the different levels of grading, and then working within that parameter to say, here's the raw data, here's the scan of that fiber, and then let's pull in these data, these software data analyzers and aggregators like we have in this other group,
Right.
and then say, oh, this fiber is grade A quality, then the farmer could sell it for X, or it's B,
Right.
farmer could sell it for X there. So it's really capturing data and then preserving that data on the blockchain, because you've got a financial transaction taking place, and
Mhm.
you want to make sure people are acting accordingly. And this also opens up carbon, so we're able to also pull carbon sinking data in and put a stamp on that, say that's what this is, here, take it and get your credit or what have you. So it's really interesting seeing how you start one way and kind of end up somewhere else.
That's quite wonderful because just for like my personal research, because I wanted to look up if there were any existing software or even calculators that would be able to track, from seed to end use products on pretty much how many, I guess, greenhouse gas emissions they emit
Mhm.
or capture. And I was wondering, do you see that being implemented in the future? Not just, you mean possibly, your company or someone else's, but another where they're using, software or data
Mhm.
to track carbon emissions or
Sure,
sequestration.
sure. So you look at it as if you look at everything from a data aggregation module, right? So let's take a
Mhm.
packet. So you've got what I just talked about, which is, hey, this is the end product.
Mhm.
Let's qualify and quantify the value or certain data sets there. So whether it's, again, fiber length, what have you. Now, go a step backwards. Another project and an app that we're developing right now, that we actually we're involved in the climate the successful climate grant that the USDA just put out.
The
So
climate
one of the
smart.
things, what's that?
Mhm. Is it
Yeah,
the climate smart
yeah, the
technology?
climate
Yeah.
smart. Yeah, so we were involved in that, and one of the elements that we were putting together as for farmers as an extra benefit is we have an app that we were developing that would then go, and the farmer at the seed level, right? So you're talking right at
Mhm.
the seed part. So you go in, the farmer gets to aggregate, or excuse me, onboard.
Mhm.
Okay, this is the strain we're using. This is how many acres, density, they onboard, and then they go in the middle of their field and they press drop a pin. As
Okay.
soon as they drop the pin, we're working with a really cool weather data aggregator, and that's called Tomorrow IO. They're really cool. They work with all
Okay.
the airlines and sports industry. And Tomorrow IO would then start recording at that specific data set or location, granular data for that farm. And it's like
Right.
26 data points from like soil
Yep.
humidity, all this data point. And what we were doing is, I think we had it initially at every 15 minutes because we wanted to see if
Mhm.
it came in, but I think we're doing it like twice a day. And what you'll be able to see is all the different data points and weather data points
Mhm.
that could then get to what that final product. So this final product was created with all these data inputs from strain to weather inputs, and that's what you get here. And then when you take that and you go to a lab and you get your carbon sinking data, like you burn it,
Mhm.
basically burn it, and they see how much carbon it captured.
Mhm.
You've got an end to end data set that you can start really compiling and putting machine
Right.
learning going, well, if we planted this strain here at this within this weather parameter, it will
Mhm.
produce this much carbon sink. So we're
Right.
really, it's so exciting. Data's great.
Oh my gosh. I think I actually heard of Tomorrow. Is it IO, you said?
Yeah, it used to be
Yeah.
called Climacell. Uh,
Okay.
and then they changed over, but I've been talking to their founders. They've become actually good friends. I've been talking to them
Okay.
for about 3.5 years. They're so great. Um, and it's really just for putting puzzle pieces together and creating solutions with groups that already have the best of the best for this data capture and this, and we're creating a solution from that. Um, and that's been as you can tell me, I'm really passionate about that because
Mhm.
it's such a great thing. I mean, because weather input, it's the most important,
It
weather and
is. Yep.
cultural, and they also put in nutrients and all that. But uh,
Mhm.
it's something we're right at the forefront. We're able to, we're going to be putting this app together along with the other existing solutions we have.
That's incredible because, because of the anthropogenic causes, due to, us humans, it's like, okay, I feel like we can, look into regenerative agriculture, but I feel like at this point, we're going to need agri-tech too, regardless. So whether it's precision ag or, what other, measuring instruments to test soil or look at weather data and, possibly even get a pattern out of it because it's been so erratic, farmers are going to want to know, am I going to have a successful harvest or not? What do I need to do to get my soil to where it needs to be?
Mhm.
And, with that, I mean, we can talk, all day about soil health, and I feel like it's not being talked enough, but I think farmers are now learning, hey, this is what I need. It's necessary now.
Oh, it's another, the weather, the cultural, they call it cultural weather inputs. Those are variable. The soil, it's variable if you want to change it, but it's what it is. Like, hey,
Yep.
let's take our core sample. So that's another, and I didn't touch on that, but that's another data set is the core sampling. What soil are you dealing with? And then align that with the nutrients or soil regenerative programs that you're going to initiate. So all these things, like you said, are creating a roadmap. And here's the other thing. Think about strain, climatization. We're doing a lot of work in Latin America right now. I've been really blessed to have the opportunity to do that and work with countries that are just bringing hemp and cannabis on board. And wouldn't it be great to know, okay, this strain grown within these weather data inputs, okay, it was successful.
Right.
What's the average humidity? Okay, here's the average humidity. Oh, these strains should work in that area because it's been already shown to be X, Y, and Z success within that. So we're also looking at, accelerating strain testing and approvals.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to just be for hemp, of course. We can do this with any kind of crop around the world once we
Right.
have this data platform.
And that's so wonderful. I look forward to what you guys come up with because from even not even a small farmer standpoint, but even as a gardener here, my family and I were experimenting with different soil. Like so we have, organic soil with mycorrhizae. And then in our other bed, we're gonna have, this soil with a little bit of biochar, this one with, that organic soil, biochar and compost. And we're going to experiment, what variety works best. So like, that's what we're doing at home on a very like small scale level,
Great.
which hopefully, will, eventually develop better yield for our family food wise, have our permaculture food forest. But yeah, it does start with soil and what you know about it. So that's fantastic.
So are
Um,
you going to, let me ask you a question. Are you going to take multiple types of seeds in each and just see which one does the best or how they are?
We are gonna test the same varietal seeds that we have and place it in those different beds. And track them through a very boring Excel sheet. But
Well,
regardless,
take
I'm
pictures.
excited.
Just keep
Yeah,
visual documentation is so key, especially for your family. It's kind of fun to see the whole thing.
yeah,
Um, you can't have too much data. Well, actually, you can because sometimes you can get too much data and you don't know how to apply it. What is it they say to it? We're
right,
swimming in data, drowning in information, or drowning
right.
in data. It's one of those.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, you have
Hmm.
to. And with machine learning and with all this AI stuff, we could go down that whole trail. I mean, AI is a little scary in certain ways because I keep hearing about it. But
Right.
to
But
be able to run analyticals and go, here's the data input, and then ask it quickly, okay, so which is the best one for X, Y, and Z? I mean, it's just,
yeah, exactly. You can calculate it like that and pull data versus like and your team going through it and comparing and whatnot.
yeah,
So that's wonderful, that ChemID, is testing on a, chemical analysis basis. And then the fiber front is, the material.
brand new. Yeah, we have not put the program together yet. It's all hypothetical, but we've already built the platform, and then it's just plugging in the data inputs because the end result again is the quality of the
Right.
crop. whatever it is.
And
But
how is it on the back end, the software part of it? Is it like, really difficult to program and
uh, we, I never, I didn't know I was starting a software company. So
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I didn't know we were building a software company. I
Right.
have to tell you, well, we started out as a hardware company. We thought we were
Right.
going to, hey, change the world with a simple testing device. Now there's some great ones like Orange Photonics and all these other Big Sur. I mean, really neat little, Purple. All these things are really fun, cool. I mean, not just fun and cool, but they're good little stuff. They're not laboratory grade, of course,
Mhm.
but we thought we were going to get into that space, and we started. That's where we spent the first significant amount of money. And we're like, wait a second, let's just build software which makes everything easier, and we can work with any hardware.
Right.
Because when you can aggregate all those data points and again harmonize, that's the new keyword, harmonizing data. My board
Mhm.
was all talking about that, like harmonizing data.
Yeah.
When you can harmonize data, it becomes useful data,
Right.
and you want to be able to play with everybody in the sandbox because everybody brings something to the table, and then at the end you're kind of conducting and you're pulling
Right.
it together and you're serving it up and go, here you go, oh, this is
Mhm.
valuable. So yeah, the
Would you say
fiber
it's
side.
universal in a way?
Hmm?
Is it universal in a way, your software?
Yeah, well, it can be universally applied. We're
Mhm.
even being talked to by government for tracking and tracing rare earth minerals. They want to make sure, of course,
Mhm.
unfortunately, with the political climate we're in right now, there's some countries we can't work with.
Right. Yeah, because they have their own regulations and what you can't touch and what can be responsibly mined
Right, and not only
and
that, like
processed.
State Department's like, no, you got an embargo, you can't work with Russia, right?
Mhm.
So you can't get rare earths out of Russia. And what they want to be able to do is make sure and track that certain rare earth minerals are not from certain parts of the world, or like
Okay.
you were saying, there's some slave labor in
Yep.
some of these cobalt mines. So they want to make sure, it goes back like the blood diamond thing. Hey, you want to make
Yeah.
sure this diamond is from here. We
It's
actually
ethical pretty
could,
much.
yeah, and we actually could, if you had that data to differentiate where something is from, we
Mhm.
could pull that into the system and pull that into the track and trace and say, okay, we can verify that this is not, or this is from there, or it is not from there.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's the beauty of track and trace because as a consumer, like, I can only read so much information given on, packaging. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna go on their website and see if they have any like PDF or reports that I can read about, how this process was done. And most of the time there isn't.
yeah, it,
So I think, this should be implemented. I think companies should start looking into track and trace and just, blockchain for, like you said, the value chain pretty much. And I think this would reduce uh headaches or guessing games for like logistics or suppliers or distributors and whatnot.
well, the whole ecosystem and the other side of it. So once you get the data, right, how do you make it easy for the compliance person, the police
Yep.
officer, the consumer? How do you make it easy? So, here's an example. So we've been working with some people in the UK government who are putting together the importing um, protocols for cannabinoids into the UK. So Ireland,
Hmm.
Scotland, Wales, Great Britain. And so we've been working on them with this, and they're like, okay, great. So we have the ability to track and trace, and now what? So what we've come up with is something called a kite mark, and the kite mark is the equivalent of a tax stamp. So people see them in cigarettes and things like that,
Okay.
really tiny. But these blockchain for all intents and purposes, it's a hash. It's like a QR code, but it's really big because it's got a lot of data.
All
You
right.
can't fit that on that. So the thought is, okay, practically, you're going to click here. This is going to take you to a secure website that then
Hmm.
will have the bigger hash marks so you can click on your phone and go all the way
Yeah.
back to when it was a seed or
Right.
whatever it is, and then
Yeah.
follow it all the way through. And the solution is also key for transportation.
Yeah.
So when it comes in through customs, the custom officer is going to go click on this and go, okay, this is the material. It passed here. Here's the COA. It's clear. They still might send it to a lab in the
Hmm.
UK just to verify that this is exactly like this, which
Yeah.
it's part of our business model. That's how we stay in business. But it's really exciting. And then they could end up setting up the whole global protocol for import and export of regulated cannabinoids.
Yeah.
So, and you could do that with rare earth minerals. Oh, chemical precursors.
Okay.
During COVID, we realized that, dealing with China, everybody realizes now that China is responsible for the majority of our medicines that we bring into our country. There's an initiative to say we need to onshore our manufacturing again, because you can't have insulin unavailable
Right.
for our
Right.
population. And
Right.
so there's all these other, again, applications for our software to track and trace chemical precursors, so we know where they're coming from as well.
Wow.
It's exciting.
That is incredible. Yeah, that's quite amazing. That's your software can do that.
Thank
And
you.
that it can be applied to, many sectors. Like you said, medicine, rare earth minerals, industrial hemp.
Well,
Um,
that's where we started. We've got a great team. We've got awesome programmers. They're very practical.
yeah,
And they're wonderful, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities to work all around the world and be exposed to, um, tons of hemp organizations, right? So working with National Hemp Association and the Standing Committee of International Hemp Organizations, um, I mean, it's the most exciting thing to be able to talk to other heads of national hemp associations and
mhm,
aggregate. Remember, we had that meeting a couple of
yeah,
months ago, and just the energy. Everybody's excited, wants to share information, and really break down the barrier to entry and
yep,
collapse time. We don't want everybody to have to restart the process
right, yep. So
from zero.
here are a resource that we've done here in the States, or what, they've done, in different countries, and those that are just starting, can definitely utilize us and say, hey, this is what we're going to draft up and create. So yeah, I'm glad that we have the Standing Committee of International Hemp Organizations. So yeah, thanks for co-chairing, and I look forward to our next meeting too,
Yeah,
which I will have to do all that.
we'll work
Uh,
on
yeah.
that.
So can you tell us a little bit about your work, speaking of, an international front, um, in Costa Rica and Honduras?
Sure. So I live in Texas, and it's, that's just south of us, and so it's been really easy to start to work down south in Central and Latin America. I started going down to Costa Rica about 2.5, 3 years ago. The gentleman who was tasked with the viability studies of growing cannabis down in Rica, he had partnered up with the Ministry of Ag, and he's a global, like he wanted to look at the whole solution to bring into the industry. So not just, hey, this strain works well for,
Right.
this hemp strain works well. This is all hemp initially. And he heard about us having a platform that would help them differentiate between medicinal marijuana and hemp. We had that 0.3% and threshold. And so he contacted me, and we became really good friends. He was actually from Texas originally, and he's been down there for 7 years. And I started flying down there, and I was presenting to their government, the Ministry of Ag, Health, and then to their version of our Congress called Assembly, and just made presentations and just started going down a lot more frequently. And we set up a organization down there called Vida Afortunada, which means fortunate life. That's a great.
Hmm.
And we secured a lease at a beautiful, it was a brand new center. I think it was like $52 million agricultural distribution center. It's like on like 12 acres, and just brand new condoized offices. There was like 78 of them, and we took over a significant number of them. And our goal is we created a hub for media, education. In fact, we're doing a open house coming up here on the 6th of May, and a couple of our members are actually speaking virtually. And so we've got a hemp track and a medicinal marijuana track, but there's space to come down and host seminars, summits. I mean, it's open. I want to bring as many people down there because, number one, everybody's heard of Costa Rica. Everybody loves Costa Rica. They want to be there, and it's a central hub. It's very neutral. It's like the Switzerland of Latin and South America. And it's really easy to get to, and people could come in. We can do seminars. Again, we can do ongoing podcasts. There's a number of hemp processing hardware groups that want to come down and showcase their products. And it doesn't have to just be for Costa Rica, because everything's so close. People can fly in
Mhm.
and learn about different machinery and stuff. And it's literally 20 minutes from the international airport. It's beautiful. I'll send you the deck if you wanted to share it at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
But that's where our open house is. And we're going to have, I mean, we've got farming collectives, a lot of the farming collective groups are going to come in. Health and Human Services are going to come in. I believe Jeff is going to have a keynote presented. And it's just a kickoff to let people know what we've got. And we've got this beautiful
Right, yeah.
sandbox that anybody can come in and play in. And, we're just kicking it off.
So what is being heavily farmed in Costa Rica right now?
Oh, well, you've got tomatoes, you've got bananas, some of the, a lot of banana cultivation down there. You've got sugarcane is incredibly, is one of the biggest crops they've got. I think they've also got palm. They do a lot of palm, and those are some of the crops. Hemp, I'm really excited about the industrial hemp potential, because we just have to really find a good humidity resistant grain crop, because if we can do that, we'll be able to try to come up with a tri-crop, right, which would be grain, which we can use for protein, animal feed. They're not as regulated as we are up here with some of the political stuff. So they're interested in doing that immediately. And then fiber, and that fiber and herd we can do for textiles or what have you. And I was sharing with you earlier, I just don't want to see the same thing happen here, where we got really excited and a lot of momentum and the farmers grew and they didn't have anywhere to take it. The process, CBD flower, people that were going for cannabinoids, but the industrial applications, for automotive industry, for building, all of these things are going to require a lot of space to grow, but so a production hub. And so that's something else we're starting to put together as a couple strategic production places in the country as well.
That's incredible. I mean, the facility, looks, stunning and fabulous. And I think even when you mentioned sugarcane, I think there can be some synergy between industrial hemp and sugarcane in terms of bioplastics, because I know that I believe Lego is looking into sugarcane.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't do that. I got to look into that.
Yeah, for their bricks. So I forgot where they're sourcing it, but yeah, they're looking into sugarcane as their sustainable portion of their company.
Well, they can, like, so once they get their sugar cane, the product, it's all residual leftover product they can utilize for stuff. Oh, and I'd be really remiss if I didn't mention also working with Honduras and with El Salvador. And so Honduras, because I was down there, I had the opportunity to start speaking with some really great people in Honduras, and they actually set up the Honduran National Hemp Association, and they're part of our subcommittee, and they're just going through the process. And I actually have a call with them later today to give me an update. They're trying to get a presidential executive order to say, hey, Congress, let's get this going so we can get industrial hemp. And they're not even going to start with CBD.
Okay.
They're going to go right to focusing on just industrial applications.
Okay.
And El Salvador, the same thing. So it's a real blessing, and it's so close too, because so if we ever wanted a near shore, there's an opportunity there as well.
Okay. So, I haven't heard of, countries going in that direction, starting with industrial hemp first, because, cannabinoid was like the huge wave, and that's why countries would want to grow it. But okay. Well, that's awesome. And, I definitely look forward to hearing that update of, how they're doing it.
Yeah, I think they didn't want to have people get confused, because people do. They're like, oh, this is something you ingest. This is, so it's, we'll see how that goes, but I'll get an update and share it with you.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, thank you for sharing, what's going, what you're doing here in the States and internationally. and what your software can do. So I look, if anyone wanted to learn more about ChemID, where can they go and who can they contact?
Sure. Our website's www.chemid.com. That gives an overview.
Hmm.
We've really become a regulatory tech to
Hmm.
support the industry. So, and we have conversations with state regulators all the time. We've talked to the CDC, the Department of Treasury. They're all, hey, we like this, we want to see it, but it's a long sales process.
Right.
It's interesting, but that site will give you a really great update and an overview. And at the labs, it's going to be great to have at the labs. And there's a lot of labs that want to fly right, as we say.
Hmm.
So they're actually reaching out to us to try to secure the software on the cannabinoid side. And that's really exciting. And you're starting to see people that really are going, we can't, if we're going to have people take us seriously, we really have to start putting in stopgaps. And
Right.
I'd be really very honored to be able to, if our company was able to support getting things to the next level with truth and data.
Right. Absolutely. And even, just a consumer perspective, I think that's quite important, especially when we come to like, ingesting, whatever, especially with medicinal cannabis. Yeah, I want to know if this has been sprayed or not, or where
Right.
it's grown. And I think it's just quite important, especially with those patients who do have autoimmune diseases.
Yep. And then as we go through with very large purchases of hemp biomass, fiber, you want to know
Hmm.
what you're paying for, and you want to pay
Right.
for market value. And this type of software, our software will help to get that going. So there's a
Yeah.
baseline of comparison.
And with the fiber part too, you have maybe those who are using cannabinoid hurd and try to pass it as fiber hurd, that may not be suitable for building material,
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
things like that. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much, Cree.
Thanks, Anna.
Um, I look forward to our next Sky Ho meeting and continue working with you. And if there's anything else you'd like to share, just shoot me an email, or if there's anything you'd like to share with the audience.
Yeah. No,
Um,
great. And I appreciate anybody taking the time and listening to me rant. So it's yeah, always here to answer any questions. And I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time today.
of course. Well, you have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.